Before we start, the name is at the top right of the screen. The story begins as a woman calls a woman his grace and tells him that she wants him to love her for a year. She mentions that in return she will use her magic to foresee the future. He'll have everything to gain and nothing to lose. He leans in over to her as he mentions how great it is. He accepts the deal. For just 1 year, she asked him to fall under her love spell. She coughs up blood as she reveals this magic comes with a price, which is her life. She knows his grace does not need to know about it as she'd rather live her life to the fullest even if it's for a year. She made the choice to live her best life. Enoch was just a means to achieving her goal. But the more time they stayed together, the more she started to appreciate the brighter things in life and she started to crave more. He tells her he'd do anything to kiss her now. She calls out to him as he gently pushes her onto the bed. He asks her if people call this love. She flinches as he gives her a hickey and questions if this is the kind of love he wants from her. Is this what she likes? He unbuttons his shirt as he tells Ellen to tell him he wants this too. They begin to kiss as she ponders she does not want this magic spell to ever end. She wonders if they will lose this moment forever ... when her magic ends. In the palace of Bayon, a man asks Enoch so he has no interest in getting married this year. Enoch Bayon Friedrich is the Duke of Bayon. The man gets up and begins to shout that he is already 25. He questions when will he ever get married. All the ladies are pinning after him because he is still a bachelor. That makes it difficult for other bachelors to find wives. He yells that some people wish to get married and knows it better. He's Warren Nobert, Marquis of Nobert and Enoch's bosom buddy. He tells Enoch that they both know what the real problem is, that His Majesty is itching to marry his younger brother off. And at this rate, Enoch may have to marry out of convenience and not love. Enoch mentions that Penelope said that she is willing to go into contractual marriage with him. Warren asks if he is referring to Saintess Penelope. Warren thought contract marriage only happened in romance novels. He did not see her as a dreamer. Warren asks Enoch to not tell him she is in love with him too. He remembers she did not seem infatuated with him at all. Enoch smiles as he states her head is definitely up in the clouds. She's obsessed with romance novels. Warren complains that it's about time he starts having real food for breakfast instead of his cigar. He worries that at this rate Enoch will end up dying early, and he also tells Enoch to consider getting married before the year is over. Enoch wonders who does he think he is? His wife of something. Enoch sighs as he ponders he does not wish to get married and he does not even wish to live very long. He thinks love and marriage is for fools who have too much time on their hands. Warren realizes that he should better get going since he has a date with Mercedes. Warren leaves as Enoch ponders he sees a fool right in front of him. He knows getting married and starting a family means nothing for him. Meanwhile, a woman tells Ellen that she has to bring in the laundry. Ellen responds that she is on it. After a while, the woman asks her if she's done with her chores. She responds that not yet and calls the woman her mother. Her mother complains that why is Ellen so slow? Today is the day of the spring ball. Both Helene and Melissa were busy getting ready for the big event. She, on the other hand, was busy with household chores. Although her stepmother did say that she could attend the ball when she finished all her chores and she could go when her work was over. Her stepmother tells her that at this rate, she will never be able to attend the ball and laziness will not get her anywhere. She dismisses all the maids for the day. Ellen ponders that her stepmother should wait and she will get everything done before she even knows it. Melissa and Helene come down after getting ready as their mother compliments them that they're looking as lovely as always. Ellen is stunned to see them as she thinks they seem a bit overdressed. One of them asks if she looks alright since the feather decoration feels rather heavy on her dress. Their mother tells them not at all, and they must do whatever they can to stand out. She tells them to not forget to smile when their eyes meet with the gentleman in attendance. They must be betrothed before the season is over. Ellen ponders that her stepmother has been on a mission to marry her daughter off since they made their debut last year. She knows they are too poor to provide a proper dowry, so it won't be easy for her stepsisters to marry into a good family. Her stepmom suddenly shouts at Melissa, which causes Ellen to be startled. Her mother questions why is she wearing those ribbons. Melissa seems frightened as her mother tells her with bland features like hers, she needs to wear bold colors to stand out. Her mother complains that she has told her that she should wear red ribbons in her hair. Melissa responds that she thought pink ribbons went well with her frock. Her mother's expression becomes cold as she questions how dare Melissa talk back to her. Her attention suddenly changes to Ellen as she yells what's taking her so long. At this rate, she'll be cleaning all night. She continues that everyone in this house annoys her to no end, except for her clear Anthony. She decides to go. Ellen ponders that her stepmother's little Anthony is probably up to his neck in debt at the gambling table. She wonders if stepmother really does not know. Or is she turning a blind eye on his actions? Suddenly the clock strikes as she realizes that it's already time and she must get everything done before the clock strikes again. She wishes to make use of the beautiful dress she created. After some time, she is filled with excitement as she is finally done. She sees it's 15 past 10. If she gets ready now, she'll be able to enjoy the ball for a few minutes. She would do anything to get out of this home. After a while, she hesitates as she stands out of the palace. She realizes the palace is so elaborate. She had low expectations, as all she wanted was to escape from reality for a bit. Inside, she seems to be having lots of fun as she ponders she did not know balls were so entertaining. Her stepmom turns around and notices she is here. She thinks there is no way she finished all her chores. Suddenly people start to murmur as Ellen wonders what is all the commotion. It is announced that His Grace Duke Enoch Bayon is here. She blushes as she wonders if that is the Duke of Bayon. She knows he is even more handsome in person. He glances at her as she gets startled and wonders if their eyes just met. Her heart starts to beat louder. She takes a step back, ending up stepping on someone's foot. She apologizes to him, but he mentions it is no problem. He tells her that she may call him Sir Anderson. He asks her who is she, as he calls her his little flower. She is shocked. She suddenly turns around as she tells him to please enjoy the party and she will leave. But he grabs her hand as he asks her to wait. She asks him what is the meaning of this and tells him to let her go. People's attention diverts to them as they begin to murmur. He asks her which family is she from, as he has not seen her on the dance floor tonight. He places his hand on her shoulder as he starts to lean in. As he mentions, she's dressed up for the ball and it would be a shame to let it go to waste. She suddenly pushes him as she ponders. No, she does not want to go. She loses control as she falls before a man grabs her. He tells her there she is. He is the Duke Enoch. Everyone is silent before people start to murmur. He leans in and whispers into her ears that he has been looking all over for her. This causes her to be startled. She takes a glance at him and realizes he is the Duke of Bayon. He asks if she has managed to calm down. She bows as she responds. Yes, she has, and thanks him. He teases her as he questions for what she has thanked him. She is confused as he questions. Do not tell him that she was going to choose Earl Anderson over him. Anderson jolts before she turns around and responds that of course not, causing him to grit in annoyance. He questions, is that so, before extending his hand and asking her then what is she waiting for. She remains silent before he questions. Will she refuse? She ponders that she senses envy and astonishment, curiosity even. Not only that, but she can see the anger radiating in Helene's eyes. She wonders what would happen if she took his hand, or if she turned him down. She is aware people will be shocked either way. Regardless of her choice, the gossips will have a field day with her. She knows if she is to be the subject of scandal, then she might as well. She extends her hand as she mentions it is her honor. They both bow as he grabs her waist. She stares at his eyes as she ponders. His eyes are emotionless. She is aware that he does not seem to be infatuated with her. Not only that, this man does not even know her name. As he leans towards her, she knows this does not feel real. People start to clap. She bows as it turns around and leaves. She seems disappointed as she ponders he really has no interest in her. She wonders, then, why did he do that to her? Before her stepsister approaches her, Helene yells at her, questioning why did she before her mother stops her, telling her now is not the time and she can get her revenge when she gets home. She leaves as she ponders that she was hoping this would not happen. She's standing on the balcony as she knows the balcony makes the best hiding place. She knows today was a strange day. She was lucky enough to hitch a ride on a carriage and waltz with the man she was admiring from afar. She wonders if all of it was a stroke of luck or a trap. More than that, she thinks that Enoch Bayon was like a god incarnate, recall, proud and beautiful. She is aware that she should not have, but she felt a bit envious. He is drastically different from her, the neglected daughter of a baron. She grits before Enoch steps into the balcony with someone. The person questions does he really have no interest. She notices them as she wonders what is his grace doing here. He also notices her as he questions why is everyone so invested in his marriage. The person tells him that he's already past the age to get married. He responds that he is merely 5 and 20 as he calls the person his brother. Ellen wonders did he say brother. She thinks that must be His Majesty Henry Frederick, the king of the Freudian king. He tells Enoch that he married when he turned 20 and most people marry at that age. Enoch responds that he has no intention of getting married. He asks his brother why must he get a wife and start a family. Henry questions then who was the young lady he danced with earlier. He advised Enoch to dance with the ladies that caught his eye, but he is sure Enoch wasn't listening. Enoch responds that he does not know her. His Majesty questions Enoch danced with a stranger. Enoch responds that the thing is that he pitied her. She's surprised as His Majesty questions Enoch danced with her out of pity. He mentions that he knows for a fact that Enoch doesn't do kind deeds for no reason. Enoch sighs as he states he was feeling charitable. It was funny how she was scared and shaking. His Majesty mentions that he can be a bastard sometimes. Can't he say it nicely? Enoch responds he was merely telling the truth. Ellen ponders she sees why His Grace didn't bother asking for her name. He didn't find her worthy. She knows he was feeling charitable, that's all. She thinks about the past where two women are conversing and one drops a cup, causing it to shatter. The woman asks Ellen to come and sweep this mess. She begins to clean it as the other woman asks why is she living like this. She continues that she should search for a suitable husband so she can leave this place, as well as calls her a poor thing. Back into the present, Ellen squeezes her arm as she ponders that she thought that she was used to being ridiculed, but it still hurts every time. She does not wish to stay here any longer as she rises but twists her ankle. She has a throbbing pain as she realizes she must have twisted her ankle. She is startled as Henry questions is there someone at that balcony. Enoch asks Henry if he asks if there is someone. Ellen realizes she cannot get caught. She closes her eyes as she wonders what should she do. The bell strikes as she realizes it's the bell. She understands now is the opportunity to make her escape. She bursts open the door and runs outside. She tells the carriage man to take her to Heverington. She gives him some amount and mentions she will pay him the rest upon arrival. She gets into the carriage as she grits. She tells herself to not let this get to her. It turns out she's only wearing one sandal. Meanwhile, Enoch ponders that the bells are so loud. He sees the door to the balcony is open, realizing there was indeed someone here. He felt the presence of someone but did not bother to look. He didn't think they would eavesdrop on their conversation. He notices the sandal as she realizes the culprit must be a lady. He thinks it is probably a housemaid or a lady from a struggling family. He remembers the girl he danced with was wearing a similar pair of slippers. His Majesty approaches him as he mentions there's no one here. Enoch calls Henry his dear brother. Henry is stunned as he questions what has gotten into him. Enoch asks if His Majesty could pick this up for him. He glances onto the ground and sees the sandal. He seems disappointed as he ponders Enoch and his misophobia. He would always don gloves whenever he left the palace and he never wore the same pair twice. But even still, Henry yells at Enoch, questioning if he dares ask the king to pick up a slipper from the floor. Enoch responds but he is his older brother. Henry sighs as Enoch continues that in the end he knows he's going to do it. Henry gets down to pick it up as he questions does this belong to someone he knows. Enoch asks Henry does this look like something that belongs to someone he knows. As Henry picks it up, Enoch asks him to throw it out as he mentions he does not wish for any litter within the palace. Henry takes a look at the sandal and ponders if his assumption is correct. This slipper belongs to before a new day begins. Ellen's stepmother shouts at her as she questions does Ellen call this cleaning. Ellen apologizes as she mentions she's sorry but she hurt her ankle. Her stepmother glances at her for a while before she slaps Ellen. Ellen is shocked before her stepmother steps onto her feet. She tells Ellen to consider it karma. She got what she deserved for craving something she did not deserve. Her stepmother tells her that His Grace merely danced with her out of pity, since she attended the lavish spring ball at the Evona Palace. She continues to press on her feet as she continues that she wore a shabby frock. She questions why did Ellen embarrass Earl Anderson like that. She put him in a difficult situation, and she must go to him and apologize like a true lady. Her stepmother asks if he were to file a complaint against their family, would she be willing to take full responsibility? Ellen ponders that she can see her stepmother's true intention. Ellen responds that she will send an apology to Marquis Anderson. Her stepmother mentions good for her, and continues that she and Helene will be heading out soon. Her stepmother tells her that she wants her to clean the second floor hallway while she's gone. Ellen responds she will do it. After a while Melissa calls out to Ellen. She mentions that she has a favor to ask from Ellen. Ellen questions what is it. Melissa responds that her mother asked her to return the book to the Royal Library, but she is a bit busy at the moment. She will appreciate it if Ellen takes this book back on her behalf. Ellen ponders that Helene is always asking her for favors, and Melissa on the other hand rarely does. Ellen asked if there is a reason why Melissa does not want to go. This causes Melissa to flinch. Ellen asks Melissa why she is suddenly asking her for a favor. Ellen asks Melissa to be honest with her. Melissa responds that she has something really important to take care of. She asks cannot Ellen help her out. As she continues, she doesn't think she is asking for too much. Ellen questions does Melissa thinks this isn't too much. Ellen states that it is an hour walk to the Royal Library, and she would not call it a simple favor. Melissa questions cannot Ellen call for a carriage as it is not that expensive, causing Ellen to flinch. Melissa asks Ellen what's wrong, as she does not look very happy. Ellen responds that she does not have any money and Melissa's mother took everything she had. Just because she dared to dance with the Duke of Bayon, Melissa starts to chuckle all of a sudden, causing Ellen to be surprised. Melissa questions did Ellen just say Melissa's mother. Ellen turns around to find Helene and her stepmother. She approaches Ellen as she mentions that she guesses Ellen is still having trouble acknowledging her as the mistress of the household. Ellen realizes so this is what Melissa really wanted. Her stepmother continues that there is only so much a person can take. She may be Ellen's father's second wife, but she gave birth to his illegitimate child. She comes closer towards Ellen as she states it was her mother who was unable to run the household. Her mother who had a loose fuse. Ellen clenches her fist before her stepmother points at her and yells that she should be grateful they did not kick her out yet. Ellen mentions that she thought her stepmothers wished for Melissa to return the book because she hoped to match her with the royal librarian. Her stepmother questions how dare Ellen talk back to her. Before Ellen continues that not only that, she too is the member of the Lopez family. She's not someone they picked up off the streets but she is her father's daughter before her stepmother slaps her. Ellen falls onto the ground as she mentions that she is indeed Marquis's daughter and Helene and Melissa belongs to her ex-husband. Her stepmother questions that's what Ellen wishes to convey, right? Ellen responds that's not the case before she hits her once again. Her stepmother questions does Ellen wish to be crippled forever. That way, she will stop longing for things that are out of her league. Ellen trembles as her stepmother tells her to go to the library. She continues that Ellen would be so lucky if she caught the eye of the royal librarian. Ellen limps as she realizes her ankle hurts so much. She thinks she may never get better if she does not rest. She looks up at the sky and notices it's soon going to rain. She returns the book as she tells the attendant to take care. The person calls out to Ellen as he mentions that it seems she has injured her ankle. He asks if she walked all the way here. Ellen responds yes, she did. He gives her some money as he tells her if she walks back it'll get worse. He tells her to call for a carriage for herself. She suddenly becomes startled as she thanks him but mentions she cannot accept his money. He tells her but it will rain soon and if she gets caught in the rain with an injured ankle, it'll get worse. She responds that she's really fine before her eyes sets on Enoch, as women starts to murmur because of his beauty. Warren tells Enoch that he is so full of it, after donating so much money to renovate the royal library. He has not come to see it until now. He continues that he would have come every day. It has been a year since the war against Atrios ended. Like Warren stated, he donated a lump sum to renovate the royal library. Some wondered why he spent so much money on the library when the nation was at war. But by winning the war and successfully reconstructing the library, he was able to emerge as a national hero. Warren states that the head of the library must be jumping with joy. He asks Enoch how did he built it so lavishly while they were at war. Enoch sighs as he ponders that old man, he has such a vulgar taste. He renovated the library to resemble a temple in a move to keep Atrios as check. Warren questions what if Atrios decides to go to war again over the library. They are still religious. Enoch responds by all means they should let them. As he continues such weaklings resorts to black magic. Warren is scared as he tells Enoch to stop it since he is scaring him. Warren states that Enoch was all over the weekly gossip magazines. He questions with who? Penelope? Warren responds no. With the mysterious lady he danced with at the ball. Enoch responds he has no interest in her whatsoever. Warren questions, so why did he choose her in the world over the others? Enoch responds well, sometimes you crave for something out of the norm. Ellen flinches as she is listening to their conversation. Warren questions if he means he was being fickle. Enoch replies something along those lines. Warren ponders Enoch is such a bastard. Enoch tells Warren that enough of this nonsense since he will be taking his leave now. Warren asks him to wait a minute as he tries to catch up with Enoch asking what has gotten into him. Ellen leans aside as she stares at them leaving. It's raining heavily as she's standing outside. She ponders that she cannot believe it's raining. She knows she will catch a cold if she continues to walk in this weather. She coughs as she remembers that her mother passed away on a rainy day like today. She thinks about her mother as she questions why did her mother had to leave her, causing her to start crying. Someone from behind mentions it's really her. She turns around to find Enoch, standing in the rain without any shelter as he mentions the owner of the well-worn slippers. She's startled as she asks what is he doing here. He leans in, causing her to flinch as he questions if she is asking why is he still here. He whispers into her ears that her friend ditched him. He tells her that she was hiding behind the pillar, wasn't she? He mentions that she isn't very good at hiding though, as he asks would not she agree. He ponders that she looks like a prey standing before a predator. He looks at her ankle as he asks how did she hurt it, causing her to flinch. He leans towards her as he asks if she is not going to reply. He suddenly grabs her shoulder and takes her towards the carriage. She questions what is the meaning of this. She is pushed into the carriage as he mentions, so she does talk. He questions if she has a home. She responds of course she does. The carriage man looks at her as she tells him to please take her to 11 Heverington Street. Enoch asks how did a housemaid like her attend the ball. She responds she was allowed to attend for being diligent with her work. He responds it's not an honor giving to her an average housemaid. She states that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and she couldn't pass it up. He questions if she is sure the ball was worth for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She ponders that he is so annoying. He leans a bit towards her as he asks does not she wish to know why he chose to dance with her. She responds it is because he pitied her. He mentions she knows her place. Ellen ponders that he is trying to mess with her. Enoch questions if she is sure she didn't have any expectations. He asks did she not expect something when she danced with him at the ball. She wonders her, expecting something. She realizes that he is testing her. He wants to see whether she has fallen for his charms. She knows any noble lady would have high hopes in a situation like this, but she is not that wide-eyed, naive girl anymore. She laughs a little, causing him to freeze. They reach the destination as she ponders she'd better get off the carriage before things get worse. She bows as she thanks him for the ride. She notices a cat. She calls her Lucy. Suddenly the horse gets out of control while she is still in the carriage, causing her to stumble and fall on Enoch. He smirks as he mentions she is quite something. She tells him this was not intentional. He questions if she is suddenly feeling embarrassed. She responds that she was embarrassed from the start, however, this was not intentional. He grabs and pulls her closer, causing her to blush. He states it sure does not look like that to him. She realizes that he is too close to her. She certainly pulls herself away, mentioning that, as she said, it was not intentional. She apologizes to him. She ponders their faces nearly touched. She asks if he could let go of her, as he has placed his hand on her waist. He smirks as he lets her go. She thanks him for the ride and promises that she will repay him. He asks does she really believe he needs her money. He rises as he asks how will she pay him back. She mentions she will mail it to him before he refuses the idea and steps closer to her. He grabs her face as he tells her to bring it herself. He states that he is sure she knows his address. He tells her to not mail the money but bring it to him herself. He tosses her out of the carriage as he tells her she can get going now. She's shocked as Helene notices her as she wonders how did she got off the carriage. She asks Ellen how did she manage to borrow the carriage. She continues that she thought Ellen was penniless and asks if the librarian give her the money for the fare. Ellen doesn't reply as she mentions the daughter of a marquis, begging like a pauper for a carriage ride. He tells Ellen to not forget that men approaches her out of pity. Helene questions if Ellen doesn't think they're serious about her. She continues that Ellen will ruin the reputation of their household before Ellen responds that Helene should not worry since nothing of the sort will happen. Ellen finds Helene so insecure. Helene is filled with rage. Melissa mentions that Ellen is back. She questions how's Ellen's ankle. Ellen tells Melissa to get out of her way as Helene suddenly grabs Ellen's hair as she shouts where is she going as she isn't done talking to her. She curses Ellen and Melissa begins to laugh. Melissa tells Helene that it is enough as Ellen is not feeling very well. Helene states that Melissa is too soft-hearted for her own good. Helene pushes Ellen, causing her to fall as she states that Ellen should better not get on her nerves again and she has warned her. They shuts the door as tears falls down her eyes. She ponders that she is sick and tired of this. Rain starts to begin again as she is petting Lucy. She thinks about Enoch and remembers he said he danced with her out of pity and she does not wish to get involved with him. She knows that the truth is she could send the money by courier, but for some reason she's having second thoughts. She wonders was it because of how he searched for her in the rain. She is sure she walked right into a trap. She realizes she is acting like a fool. The new day begins as Ellen's stepmother mentions that she will do that. She steps out of the room as she trembles in anger. She curses Ellen as she ponders things changed ever since Ellen went to the Royal Library. She wonders how dare Ellen go directly to her father and inform him that she needs to rest until her ankle recovers. She also thinks why is he suddenly playing the role of doting father? He has no interest in their household affairs. She thinks Ellen likely used that to her advantage, as Ellen has been holed up in the attic, neglecting her duties. She wasted her precious money hiring additional help. She curses Ellen as she grits in anger, pondering that she should have done away with her when she had the chance. Her daughter of marrying age is a huge asset to any noble family. In that aspect, Ellen has more to offer than Helene and Melissa. She is a yellow noble with the Lopez bloodline running through her veins. She knows Ellen is not as beautiful as Helene, yet men seem to be unable to keep their eyes off her. She ponders it should be her 2 daughters, who find a good match, and if only she could find someone to take the wench off her hands. Someone suddenly shouts "Mother" as she turns around to find Anthony in a vulnerable look as he pants. She runs towards him as she questions what's the matter. What happened to his face? He trembles as he responds he thinks that he is in deep trouble. She flinches as she questions who in the world did this to him. She decides to catch those people before Anthony grabs her hand. He tells her to please not do that and states he lost at the gambling table and now owes a huge debt to Viscount Zelen, causing his mother to be speechless. He expresses that he only meant to play a few hands, but one thing led to other and before he knew it he ending up getting into this. He also mentions that Viscount Zelen is notorious for his shady reputation. His mother is shocked as he confesses that Viscount Zelen's gangs will do anything for money. He kneels down as he begins to cry, asking his mother what should he do. His mother is freezed as she ponders that she is sick and tired of being in debt. She, Margaret Luzabal, is a barber's daughter. They were commoners mired in poverty. Their debts started to accumulate, and to escape poverty she ended up marrying Walter Dusalis, an aging catcher. Soon after she gave birth to their child. He questioned when is the child due. She did not want her child to take after that fool. She knew that cannot happen. While she was suffering from the pain of birth, she worried that her child would take after her husband. Fortunately, the baby was breathtakingly beautiful. That is right, Helene was her beautiful firstborn. While she reveled in quiet joy at the birth of a lovely baby, her husband was disappointed that she had given him a daughter. He questioned what will they do with a daughter. She will have nothing going for her but her looks. And not long after she became pregnant with their second child. Her husband had high hopes that it would be a son. Until the moment the baby came out into the world. The maid informed him it was a girl. He slapped her as he called her a useless wench. He cursed the child and told her to name it herself. He left her as the maid asked her what should they do. She noticed that this child looked nothing like her. She decided to name her Melissa. Maybe that is why she focused all her attention on Helene, who took after her, for she had trouble conjuring up affection towards Melissa. She was her child, so she did take care of her. But instead of taking after her, Melissa grew up to resemble her parental aunt. The aunt mentioned that her brother is just too cruel because he should take better care of his young wife. She asked them to look at the state of this home. She laughed as she told Margaret that she had a lot on her plate. Margaret wondered how dared she ruled over her when she was a commoner, just like her brother. She continued that the only thing she has going for her is that she married into a well-to-do family. Margaret clenched her fist as she asked if the aunt would like to join her for some tea. She knew once her husband passes away, his assets and estate will be hers. One day she received the news that her husband was imprisoned. It turned out that he was arrested for fraud. And the case was still investigated. She wondered what will happen to their assets. What will happen to her and her daughters. Soon after, the victims of her husband's fraud showed upon her doorstep and they were sued for damages. They trembled in fear as the victims cursed them. In the end, she gave up on inheriting Walter's assets and paid off the victims of his fraud. She called him useless old man as she left. It turned out that he died. A woman mentioned that she does feel sorry for Margaret. But she cannot stay in her house forever because her husband and her family are not very happy about this. She asked if Margaret could help out in the kitchen or do some cleaning. It may be best to send the children to the boarding school run by the nuns. It will be better for them in the future. She knew that the future for the students there is set in stone. They become governesses if they are lucky, but most end up as a housemaid or as a nun. She did not raise them, so they could spend their lives as a governess or nun. A man tells the other person to watch where they are going. And be careful. She noticed a kid stealing and caught him. The kid ran away as she gave the person his belonging back. The person was the Marquis of Lopez. He mentioned that if it had not been for her, he would have lost his family heirloom. He thanked her for her help. She asked him how he ended up in a dangerous place like this, mentioning that nobles like him were rarely seen in the area. He responded that he had come to see if he could find a cure for his wife's madness. He continued, explaining that they had tried calling various doctors but were unable to find a cure, leading him to end up there. She expressed sympathy, noting that it must be very difficult for him. Suddenly rising and checking the time, he mentioned that he should get going. He gave her his card, telling her to contact him if she needed anything, expressing a desire to repay her for her services that day. Their hands touched as they glanced at each other. She thanked him as he left, pondering the revelation that his wife was mad. The Lopez family, once considered nobility, had seen better days. The Baron worked at the diplomatic office at the royal palace. She thought he would make a much better husband than Walter Dusalis and realized she couldn't let him get away. She saw an opportunity since his wife was also mad, feeling that the goddess of luck must be on her side. Later, she told him that she missed him so much and that meeting like this was not enough. He responded that he missed her too, questioning if she could visit him like this. Concerned about his wife finding out, he explained that she went out with their daughter, relieved that she was out of sight due to her worsening condition. Wishing there was a way to deal with her madness, she proposed a solution, and as fate would have it, the Baroness of Lopez soon passed away. A year later, Helena, now the Baroness, grabbed Ellen's hair, pulling it. A new child was born, a boy named Anthony. Margaret informed her husband that it seemed she had given him everything he wanted. He acknowledged her success and instructed the maids to take care of the Baroness, threatening punishment if they didn't. They named the child Anthony, fulfilling the Baron's wish for a male successor. With Anthony's birth, Margaret secured her position as the Baroness of Lopez. Back in the present, she ponders that Anthony is her pride and joy, and that is why she cannot give up on him. Back in the present, she tells him to not worry as she will find a way to come up with the money. He trembles as he mentions, but they only have a month and how will they find the money in such a short time? He becomes frightened as she shouts for him to get himself together. She told him that he is the successor to the Baron of Lopez. He must not let these frivolities get to him. She told him that she is sure they can find a way, but he should promise her that he will stop gambling. He shakes as he promises. She cannot believe that her son Anthony has accumulated gambling debts. She is sure Viscount Zelen and his gang egged him on. She thinks that they may cut off Anthony's hand if he does not pay the debt in time. She wonders why should she do. Someone knocks on the door as she is informed that there is a letter for her. It is from Robert Anderson. She wonders if this is Earl Anderson whom they met at the ball. She wonders what in the world does he want. After reading the letter, she begins to laugh, which causes the maid to tremble. In the letter it is written that he fell in love with Lady Ellen at the ball. He is a widower who is living a lonely life. He is willing to offer a huge compensation in return for Lady Ellen's hand in marriage. Margaret ponders. Everyone knows what a pervert he is, but she finds it perfect as she thinks that she knew Ellen would come in handy one day. Ellen stands out of Anouch's home. She's surprised as she ponders, so this is his Grace's townhouse. The butler tells her to follow him as she agrees. She notices that it is even more lavish than she had expected. She can see why they call it the Ice Castle. The staff begins to murmur as she ponders that she is sure the staff is puzzled. A young lady who walked over to pay a visit to their master. Her father gave her some money to see a physician. She knew she could have called for a carriage with the money, but she wanted to save it, especially since her ankle has gotten better. She wonders what is a few stairs, when she has been through much worse. The attendant shows her the way and informs Enoch that there's a visitor that is here to meet him. He allows her to come in as he mentions he seems to have a very special guest. The door is suddenly shut as the attendant leaves the room, causing her to internally cry as she does not wish to be left alone with him. The environment is awkward as Enoch asks her why is she just standing there. He tells her to come closer, but she ponders he is so arrogant. She guesses he has been ordering people around all his life. She continues to stand at a distance as he questions why does she not take a seat. She mentions that there is no need as she is here to pay him back for the carriage fare. His expression becomes cold as he commands her to sit. She sighs as she sits down, thanking him for helping her out last time. She gives him the money she borrowed as he takes it out and questions does she think he called her here to retrieve a few coins. He throws the coin on the ground as he suddenly grabs her chin. He asks she works at Lopez Resident, doesn't she? She ponders that he still takes her for a servant girl. He asks why does she not come here for him instead. The pay would be much better here and he is sure she does not want to work for an employer who does not treat her right. She ponders that it would have been tempting if she were an actual maid and not the daughter of Baron Lopez. She wonders if he still feels sorry about her, as she thinks about his words when he said he pitied her. However, she does not want him to look down at her anymore. She gently pushes him away as she mentions she is sorry, but she'd rather stay at the Lopez residence. He asks if she is a masochist, or does she enjoy being treated like a slave. She responds that she has her reasons. She mentions if you will pardon her she needs to get going. She thanks him for showing pity upon her at the ball, causing him to flinch. She bows as she thanks him for helping her at the library too. She turns around to leave as he stares at her. As she tries to open the door, he pushes the door and closes it. She's flustered as she calls out to him. He grabs her as he mentions he is not done talking. He mentions that she said she does not want to be a maid and questions how about he gives her another job. She tells him that's not important. He mentions that her annual salary will be 60,000 rupen. He leans in close to her as he asks did he get her attention now. In return she must become his plaything. He tells her in case she does not understand what he is offering as he steps closer to her. He wants her to become his mistress as he wraps his hands around her waist. He finds her rather interesting. He knows he turned his offer to have her as a maid and she looks like she will break down at any given time, yet she remains cool and aloof. He wishes to observe her from close by. He asks her so what does she think about his proposal. He wants to see a crack in that cool facade. She gently pushes him as she calls out to him. She questions does he keep mistresses without finding out their name. He remains silent for a while before he asks her to tell her name. She responds it's Eleanor. She ponders it took him long enough. He ponders that he cannot believe he was infatuated with a nameless woman. She tells him that she does not know how to act coy nor she is experienced in bed. She tells him that she does not know how to spend money so she cannot play the role of his mistress. She asks him does he really think it is a good idea. He chuckles as he leans in towards her and mentions there is no need to play coy, and the more she spends, the more she gets used to it. She's startled as he grabs her neck and mentions as for what happens in the bedroom there's no need to make any effort. He will teach her everything he knows. He leans in for a kiss before someone knocks on the door. He's annoyed as he questions what is it. He is informed that Lady Archwood has arrived. He gets more annoyed as he asks why is she here. The attendant responds that she said it was urgent business. Ellen tries to back away and opens the door to leave before the door bursts open from the other side. She notices Ellen as she questions who is she. Enoch tells Ellen that she may come back another time and her offer still stands. She leaves as the Lady Archwood wonders what happened since the atmosphere seems a bit off. She turns to look at Enoch who starts to smoke. He coughs as she asks him that he still hasn't quit. She tells him to think about his poor lungs. He tells her that he never asked her to come and wishes for her to get lost. She mentions that he is so nasty from the start. She asks him who was that as she has never seen a lady visiting his home. He tells her it is none of his business before she interrupts and questions was that the young lady he danced with at the spring ball. She realizes come to think of it, she looks very similar. Enoch tell her that is enough and questions. Why did she come? She responds whatever he can just be such a jerk sometimes. She slams a marriage contract on the table. She tells him that she mentioned it before they are both being pressured to marry. She asks why don't they pretend to be a married couple and go their separate way in 3 years. She winks at him as she mentions she will be happy to give him a child if he wishes, and of course, their child would become the next Duke of Ashwood. He ponders that she really is out of her mind. He refuses the idea as she questions why not. She mentions that he is aware this is the best way to get their parents off their backs. She questions does not he agree. She questions if he wants a successor of his own. She did not think he was so interested in having an heir. He tells her that he is never getting married, not to her, and certainly not to anybody else. She teases him as she asks is it because of the lady who just left. She said she did not know he had a type. She wonders are men really into damsels in distress. He tells her to stop spewing nonsense and get out. She asks him what if that woman asked him to marry her, would he consent? He freezes for a moment before he begins to chuckle and questions why should he. She tells him that she feels sorry for the woman who marries him and spends the rest of her life as his wife. She continues that he is nothing but a pretty face. She tells him that fine, she will leave him alone for today. She does hope that day comes when he regrets being so arrogant. She mentions that he should mark her words, because when that day comes, she will be laughing in his face. She slams shut the door as he stands there silent. He tells his attendant to get his hunting gear ready. He is horse riding as he notices an animal and hunts it. His Majesty is informed that His Grace refused to collect the game he hunted and caused quite a commotion. Henry ponders he is at it again. He knows he is the best soldier Fredun has, but he has a tendency to go overboard at times. Of course, this is exactly why he is so popular with the citizens of Freuden. But he cannot let this continue any longer. Hound dogs need to be put on a leash so that it does not bite the owner's hand. He thinks that marriage may be the perfect leash for Enoch. His Majesty tells his attendant to send words to the Marquis of Filone. They must push forth with the marriage as soon as possible. The attendant asks does His Majesty wish to contact Marquis Filone and not Lady Penelope. His Majesty nods as the attendant responds as His Majesty wishes. He ponders that he needs the Marquis of Filone to keep Enoch under control. Marriage is a bargaining tool for nobility. His Majesty hopes Enoch understands that this is best for both of them. Ellen is lying on her bed as she thinks about Enoch's proposal. She tosses as she realizes that she is unable to get it out of her mind. She has tried to think about other things, however. She suddenly gets up and shouts, "Get out." She has been holed up in her room to avoid running into her family, so going for a walk is out of the question. She sighs as someone knocks on the door. She questions, "Who is it?" It's Margaret, as she tells Ellen that she needs to talk. Ellen opens the door and asks, "What is it?" Margaret is beaming with joy as she mentions that they need to go somewhere. Ellen remembers that Margaret would normally pull her hair for being idle in her room, so she wonders why is she being so nice. Margaret tells her that they need to go in for some fittings at the boutique, so Ellen should get ready as they has to be back before dinner. Ellen asks Margaret to wait a minute, as she does not seem to understand the situation. Margaret grabs Ellen's hand as she mentions that she is at her prime. She states that it is time that she gets married and she has already discussed it with her father. Ellen is shocked as she questions, "Did Margaret said marriage?" Ellen wonders why did she bring up marriage all of a sudden. Margaret tells her that she will be showing herself more often in high society, so she cannot go looking like that. She knows from what she heard from her stepmother, it seems that she meant what she said. She realizes that something does not feel all right. She knows their family does not have enough to provide a dowry for her, so it won't be the best match. She wonders then why is her stepmother rushing to marry her off. She sighs as she thinks whatever it is, she hopes her potential husband is normal, as long as he is not someone like Earl Anderson. Her stepmother asks her what is taking her so long. She responds that she is coming, as she ponders that she hopes it is not what she thinks it is. As they're walking outside, they reach the boutique, as Ellen ponders, is not this the most famous boutique in the capital? She heard it is a hot spot for fashionable young ladies with money. She did not think she would ever step foot in here. Her stepmother questions if she is worried about the price. She seems a bit hesitant. Her stepmother mentions that it seems her mother had left some money on her behalf, so she should not worry about the money. Ellen wonders that father was holding on to mother's inheritance. She never heard of such a thing before. She knows that mother should not leave her much, and father took it away saying he needed it to run the estate. And stepmother and Helene took away whatever she had left. So the only thing she has left of mother's is her white topaz necklace, an old diary written in a different language, and a mysterious jewel box. It had no key, so she was unable to open it, no matter how hard she tried. She remembers that her mother's once told her that she must never show this jewel box to anyone. She should keep it hidden away so no one else finds out about it. Only when she is stuck between a rock and a hard place, then she should open this jewel box. Mother would often go on a rampage. She gave this gift to her and told her this is her gift from mother to daughter. She knows that at that moment she seemed to be her normal self. She wondered, so what did her mom say that when she gave her the jewel box? Her stepmother questions why she is just standing here. She apologizes as they go to the store. She starts to check dresses on her as a woman approaches and questions what is Ellen doing here. It's Iris, as Margaret greets Iris. Iris mentions it is nice to meet her here. She tells Margaret that she did not know she was here and it has been a while. They leave to chat as Ellen stands there. It is mentioned that she is surprised Margaret brought Ellen rather than Helene and Melissa. She asks if someone asked for Ellen's hand in marriage. She responds not really and mentions but Bayon is itching to find Ellen a potential husband. Margaret continues that as she knows, Ellen needs new party gowns. She cannot wear the same dress to every social gathering. Ellen glances at them as she tries to listen to their conversation. Margaret states that come to think of it, isn't Iris discussing marriage with Count Van Tess? Iris responds that is not true since Cedric and she are childhood friends. Their parents joked about marriage between the families, that's all. Margaret responds how cute is that, as Ellen continues to glare at them. Iris continues that the truth is that her family has been discussing marriage with a different family. Ellen wonders marriage talks with whom. Iris whispers into Margaret's ears that she will only let her know they have been discussing marriage with the Duke of Bayon, causing Ellen to freeze.